Palms are sweaty, knees weak, arms are heavy. The finger is missing, but the guide is ready. Okay, I can't do this with a straight face. It's too cringe even for me. But yeah, guys, I am pretty much done with Path of Exile 2 at this point. I think I've tried almost every single ability in the game. I've tried a lot of ways to make them work and build around them, and I only have 2 builds left that I would like to, showcase. I've tried a lot of them in the background, but I didn't feel like they were worth showcasing because most of them are evolving around 5 things. So I wanted to make something interesting or at least different. Now this build is not that interesting because it is evolving around Trample 2 boots, but I do find it fun that you can just go around with the monk, blinking to stuff and just one-shotting everything on your screen. And because you don't need this for clear, but it's required for bossing, otherwise you're gonna take like 20 seconds instead of one-shots. Now, if you're interested in how this build works, there will be a full guide after the showcase. And tomorrow, I'm actually going to be posting a build guide on something really interesting that I haven't seen before that has crazy good boss damage. So yeah, I'll talk to you guys after the showcase. So if you did enjoy that playstyle and you wanna try it yourselves, I am running Shattering Palm level 40, but to be honest you don't need to invest nearly as much to get it to work in similar way. Thing is, with a lot of abilities like that have base flat damage on top of them, they scale amazingly well with level. Now if you wanna one-shot bosses, you just need Trample Dove Boots and Frostfall. You don't need to get it on this high amount of damage. But if you wanna do mapping without using the wall and one-shot all the rares, I just found it more fun to play around with this. Now the way you get level 40 is you get 20 from the gem, then you corrupt it to 21, right? Then you have 7 from the weapon, and that's 28. We have 4 from the amulet, which gets us to 32. We have 3 from the gloves, which gets us to 35. Plus 1 from the cold mastery, that's 36. And then you have Prism of Belief to 39, and Endless Blizzard to 40. Now this is the way you get to level 40, although getting the amulet is a little bit expensive. So what you could do is buy a lot of just plus 3 amulets. You don't really care too much about other stats if you just wanna, do crazy damage. Just find any plus 3 and keep corrupting them. I think it's fun in 36 to get plus 1 to all skills, because for the jewelry you can either change values, you can add an implicit like this, or it does nothing. And because there's no sockets on the jewels, you don't really have to worry about that. So it's 1 in 3 to get the implicits, and then I think it's 1 in 12 to get all skills. Now I'm not sure if the weights are same for all corruptions, maybe some have higher, maybe some lower weights, but I'm pretty sure if you do like, I don't know, 30 to 50 corrupts, you should be getting this, and those amulets only cost around 5 exalts. So if you just wanna get plus 4, it's gonna cost you on average, I don't know, maybe to 200 to 250 exalts, which is under a divine. It takes some time, it could be some RNG, but it is what it is. Now gloves are a lot easier to come by, those gloves are actually insane. They give me a lot of stuff that I need, so I'm really happy with those, and I bought them for only like 4 divines, which was kind of lucky catch, I would say. But we are in the end league, so right now there's a lot of stuff that people are not buying. So that's pretty much the level 40. When it comes to links, you pretty much want to use stuff that doesn't multiply your mana. Because as you can imagine, level 40 skills do have high mana costs, so getting it like damage for no mana multipliers is really helpful. So we run Concentrated Effect for 40% more damage, we don't care about AoE. Plus 1 to get it to 40, of course, this gives us a lot more value than for the other skills, because not only does it scale attack damage, it also gives us a lot more flat that we need to scale the damage further. You have Ambush, and we are pretty much running 48% crit, so I need to get a 2% more, and this will pretty much guarantee that every time we hit, it's going to be a critical strike, and because we do one-shot everything, it would effectively make us have 100% crit all the time. When it comes to Cold Infusion, this is just, most of our damage is cold, so this just boosts it a little bit more. and then you have stuff like Inspiration to reduce the mana cost, simple enough. Now, Herald of Ice is not necessary, especially when you run Trample Toes, they do the explosions themselves, but I mostly use them for increased damage from the tree, which we get from Coming Calamity and stuff like this. That's mostly why I'm using the Herald, we don't care too much about it. Frostfall, stuff that we do to make Trample Toes broken, and if you're curious how this interaction works, you can go check out my last video, but I'm sure most of you already know. Arcane Tempo to make them spawn faster, Ingenuity so you can pretty much keep using them and going forward by just doing this. And if you spam too fast, you might run out of them. So what you can do is like invest a little bit in cooldown recovery and put it on a second weapon and maybe connect your Frostfall to a second weapon. And I also have stuff like increased cooldown recovery rate on the shield, but I'm also doing this for a blink. Because if you are using Frostfall and going back to Shattering Palm every time, you would need some gems with faster weapon switch time. And I was like, nah, this is fine. Like, this is more than enough for maps. Because what I do is like, I place it down, I go to it, and then I can also press X to put the shield and blink. So you have a lot of mobility. You can do one of those, then one of those, and keep doing it. So you can be really fast in maps. When it comes to other stuff, what else did I not say? We are running Fortress to just make it circular, but we are not using Spell Cascade. The reason for that is, if I do Spell Cascade, sometimes the Icicle overlap each other, and because I already ported before all of them finished, the one that I targeted disappears, and it doesn't proc, and it just didn't feel good. So I was like, no need for Spell Cascade. This is more than enough to one-shot bosses anyway. Elemental Conflux, this is like RNG stuff that you don't need. I just didn't know what to do with Spirit anymore. This pretty much has a chance to give us more cold damage, and as you can see, this brings us from 370k to 560k. But most of the times you'll be getting Fire or Lightning, which only gives us a little small boost from extra damage. So, just extra Spirit that I was like, no, let's just buy anything. Ghost Dance, this is also not necessary or needed, but it's nice if you get almost one shot. If you don't get one shot, this restores a lot of energy shield back. Because Grim Feast usually does most of the tanking, and this cannot overflow like the Grim Feast does. So it's okay to have, but it's not necessary. And Wind Dancer, of course, to scale our evasion a little bit more, so we are fairly tanky, even though we are going for full damage in this build. Yeah, that's pretty much the skill gems. If you have any extra questions, feel free to ask, and let's go into the gear. When it comes to gear, and especially weapon, you don't care about local modifiers because they will not be working on Shattering Palm, because Shattering Palm does use unarmed attacks, which means all the critical strike, flat damage, physical damage, 2 critical damage bonus, those are all local modifiers for a weapon, which multiplies everything, which gets multiplied by everything else. You are pretty much gonna use stuff that's global, so you can use stuff like elemental damage with attacks, this is a global modifier, and this will increase the damage of the Shattering Palm. And then you have +7 to skills that we said before, we need it anyway to get to the level 40. And then for the other stuff, you pretty much wanna get, either accuracy, intelligence, dexterity, any of the other stuff, but just most important 2 ones are free sockets, +7, and elemental damage with attacks, because then you can also socket 90% increased elemental damage, so you have a lot of increased damage from the weapon, +7 to skills, and then like I said, either in dex or whatever you can get. Those without free sockets are probably around 1 divine. When I bought them, there was like 10 or 15 of them, all 1 divine, so they're not expensive. For the other stuff, it's same stuff like you would buy on a normal monk, and you already know this. It's mostly like resistances, stats, if you want some rarity to farm, energy shield and the evasion on the chest, so you can get a lot of spirit, but honestly we don't even need it this much, so you could go with like any other chest anyway. And the most important 2 items are like plus levels on the gloves and amulet, and trample to a boot for bossing. And that's Ingenuity on top of it. They are pretty cheap right now because there are so many of them, so getting like a lower rolled one is like really easy to obtain. So yeah, that's pretty much it, the gear. When it comes to jewels, it's mostly just crit and increased damage, because you wanna get that 50% crit. So we do have a +3 for Shattering Palm. I'm running what's called Megalomaniac mostly just for the 25 crit here. And then we are pricking almost every single crit node, combining them with the jewels to get the crit cap. Now, sad part about this is that we cannot get the critical damage bonus multiplier from weapons, otherwise this would be even more broken, but because it doesn't work on it, it's fine. I mean, we get some other, advantages that weapons can get, so I'm more than fine with that. When it comes to skill tree, if you guys want, you can copy it from here. If I'm not too lazy, I might also make a mobilistic link, but it is what it is. The most important stuff is getting the Against the Darkness that has extra flat damage. I mean extra damage added as. So we have Fire and Cold here, you don't care what it is because you're always critting, this will always work. You just wanna have enough so that the Frostfall interaction with the Trample Toe Boots, as I explained in the last video, has enough to exponentially scale, and this works with crit. So you get 10% here, 10% here, 10% from those two nodes together, so that's 30, and I got like, I don't know, maybe 24 from the jewels because it's hitting 3 of those, and each are giving 8, so that's 24%. So that's pretty much how you make the Trample Toe Boot scale. Extra damage and crit, and then you just one-shot everything. Only thing left to talk about is the, I guess, what nodes you should be picking. Honestly, you kind of need the Deep Trance and the Conservative Casting. This is mostly just for mana reduction because, as I said, the abilities are really costly at high levels. Or you can get like one more ring that has mana regen and mana on top of it, which would probably solve the issue as well. But I don't know, I just felt like this was easier to obtain right now. And yeah, that should be mostly it. If you guys have any extra questions and if you're curious how to build the function in certain areas, if that something doesn't work, let me know either on the YouTube or on the Discord. I'll be more than happy to help, and I'll talk to you guys tomorrow with that really interesting build that I made that's actually not using anything broken, and you might actually enjoy it. So I'll see you guys tomorrow.